Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a bit, I am headed out to check out the new drama, The Outrun. The Outrun is directed by Nora Fingscheidt, and it's starring Saoirse Ronan. It tells the story of a woman living in London who has been living her life on the edge. She's having issues with depression, addiction, and things of that sort, and decides that she needs to touch base with her past. So she goes back to the small island she grew up on off the coast of Scotland. And just by watching the trailer of this movie, it looks like it's going to be gorgeous. I mean, my gosh, some of the shots that they had in just the trailer alone looked really beautiful. So I'm expecting this film to be a very emotional story, plus some beautiful scenery to go along with it. So you know what? It is enough of me sitting here yammering on. It is time for me to get out the door to check out The Outrun. Welcome back, just getting home, and guys, I did enjoy this film. However, it was not the easiest movie to get through. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into the positive to end the video on the ever so important high note. Now, what I mean by this movie is hard to get through is its pacing. Now, it's not terrible by any means whatsoever. This film is not a very dialogue-heavy movie. It has a lot of very quiet, soft moments where people aren't saying a word on the screen. There's a lot of times where it's just the sound and everything in the background. A lot of very close-up moments of her on the beach, and you hear the waves crashing against the shore. Lots of longer shots like that. And I didn't find myself being bored in these scenes because I was intrigued on where the story was going. However, I found it to be quite serene and relaxing in some parts. So some moments of this movie, the quieter, more serene moments, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I almost took a little nap during those parts. I'm really happy that I saw this movie early in the day when I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because if I would have seen this movie later at night, I honestly feel like I would have gotten too relaxed and just fallen asleep at some of these moments. Now, I also want to emphasize, I wasn't tired because I was bored. I was tired because everything was kind of coming together almost like a sensory deprivation chamber. I just felt like I was stuck in this theater watching this film that was just hitting me with beautiful cinematography and all this really great sound design of the nature all around her, and listening to waves just like crash on the shore. It was like a freaking white sound machine, and I was just sitting right in the middle of it in some parts. So yeah, there is some definite moments in this film where you're really gonna feel the burn, the slow burn. It does not mean it's a bad movie. It does not mean it's boring. It just means it takes its time telling its story. And with this being told in a much more visual fashion and with such little dialogue, something kind of similar to the movie Castaway, where it's just focusing on the one character. There's not a lot of interactions with anyone else around her whatsoever. She talks to a few people and so on, but almost everything, especially in the third act, is just her by herself in nature. And the story is also told in a lot of flashbacks too, and it makes it a little bit difficult to understand exactly where in her story we are. But I learned something as I watched the film. At the beginning of the movie, where all of her, I guess you could say all of her troubles come together, where she decides that she is going to get help. She has blue hair, and as the story progresses, her dye slowly gets out of her hair, and so you can tell the progression of her character if you just notice where her hair coloring is. So that's how you can kind of tell where this is falling in the story of her recovery is by her hair color. And they even let you know that too. They start to kind of, the filmmaker, you could tell, was really using that hair dye as a way to let you know what time has passed. But let me tell you, the movie does not come out and tell you this whatsoever. So it does get a little confusing after a while, because to be perfectly honest, she looks a little disheveled in every piece of this time in her life, because she's either going through severe alcoholism or she's living secludedly on an island with very limited technology and, you know, things of that sort. You basically just like boiling water and things of that, you know. So it goes through that kind of time period. So it makes it a little difficult to tell exactly where you are in her recovery in the storyline. But yes, pay attention to that hair dye. All in all, I have to say that this was an extremely well-crafted, well-made film, but it is a tough one to get through. The subject matter of this film does not lighten the load whatsoever. A lot of this film is very heavy. It goes into some very, very dark areas of alcoholism, addiction, mental health, you know, things of that sort. And if you're a person that just cannot handle the reality of this, and I am not saying that it's just like, oh, she just shows her at some tough times. No, this shows the absolute terrible life that you have when you're living in alcoholism. And it shows it at the beginning, things starting to kind of unwind, and then going through the entire events that lead up to her going, wow, I need help. And if you're somebody who cannot handle watching a human being at their absolute worst, and I'm not talking about gross fluids or anything like that, I'm talking about just their absolute worst emotionally, this movie may be a little difficult for you to get through, although I do think that you would like it because you're going to want to see where the story goes. I just think that during some of those more realistic alcoholism scenes, you're going to have a very difficult time with it, because they really, really show the just absolute terrible, terrible side of alcoholism. Like, not like there's a fun side. So let's move into the positive, shall we? Let's get out of this. Let's stop talking about the negative. Let's start talking about the positive. Now, as I said in the intro, I thought that the cinematography just from the trailer alone looked amazing, and I was not disappointed. I love the use of cinematography in this film. It looked amazing. There are moments where you can tell the vibe and the feel that the film is trying to get you to feel because of the way they're using the cinematography. Whenever she's out on the island in nature and she's there by herself soaking in the wonders of nature, everything is a big, huge open shot. You might have a close-up on her, like she might be in the middle of it, but everything around her is just this beautiful oceanside scenery. And then when she flashes back to her time in the city and all of her alcoholism, everything is shot very close, very claustrophobic. It really gives you kind of a sense of tension, just how up close on everybody they are. I'm not saying that when she gets back in nature, there's absolutely no close-ups. It's a movie, of course there are. But when she's outside in nature, however, they try to show you just the healing power of being around all of that. And I thought that it was absolutely beautiful the way that the scenery, the cinematography, and everything came together to really tell this story, because like I said, it's more of a visually told story rather than something that has a lot of dialogue. But even though there's not a lot of dialogue, the acting in this film is outstanding. Saoirse Ronan does a very good job. She is on screen the entire time. Well, I take that back. There are moments where they flash back to her childhood, and she's not there. But I would say 95% of the time, she is on screen and delivering just a heart-wrenching performance. She goes to some areas with this character that it must be difficult as hell to just pull yourself back from. Trying to get inside the psyche of a person like this has to really drag you down a little bit. And let me tell you, she does an outstanding job with this movie. Nora Flingscheidt, the director of this film, crafted an extremely well put together, well made film if you're able to put in the time. Now, I would love to say go see this movie in theaters because it's gorgeous. And if you're a cinemaphile, you really need to go check out the cinematography in this movie up on the big screen and just take it in for everything it is. is. Oh, I also forgot. This movie is also one part nature documentary because our main character is a biology major. She's working on her doctorate through most of the film. So there's all these fun parts where she gives you different little tidbits and knowledge about the wildlife of the island she's on, especially the seals. There's also some really good little changing of medium kind of areas in the film. There's a cool little animated segment of the movie that tells the story of a legendary creature of the island and such. It's important to the story. You'll just have to see. All in all, guys, this was a very well-made, crafted film if you're willing to sit down and put in the time for this movie. It is a trying one. It is a film that tests you and pushes you to make it to the end because of the way the story's told. But believe me, if you make it all the way through this movie, it's very rewarding and it's very good. I really enjoyed it. So all in all, I would like to say for the cinemaphiles out there, for the people who appreciate seeing a very beautiful film on screen, get out there, check this movie out in theaters and support it. But also, if you're someone who thinks that you're going to need breaks, you're going to need some time to get up and move around a little bit, stretch your legs and all, check this movie out at home when it comes to streaming, if it comes to streaming, because it's worth it. It's very worth it. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.